and welcome back to some more Umineko When They Cry. I am still tired, but let's continue.
覚えてるさ。進学塾の日だよ。遠くて通うのが苦痛だった。
じゃあ木曜日は
I do wonder if the reason was starting on Tuesday, right? Yeah, why not Monday or Sunday? Anyway.
補習塾だわ。暗記科目は苦手だったのにね。あなた応用はできるのに暗記は苦手な典型的なやればできる子だったわ。
痛烈だね。子供が三者面談で言われて一番イラつく言葉だ。
馬を水場に連れて行くことはできるが水を飲ますことはできない。
イギリスの格言だね。
あなたのやる気を出して維持させるのが一番苦労したわ。
That seemed a bit excessive on the old. George was bound hand and foot by the red spiderweb, reduced to the witch's plaything. He innocently swung him around and smashed him about, all with an insane laugh. Again and again.
金曜日は覚えてる？
もちろんさ。ユニークな塾だったね。親と一緒の塾なんていろいろな意味で窮屈だったよ。
子に釣り竿を買うな、一緒に釣りに行け。
母さんはイギリスの教育論も好きだって。
親にとっても辛い塾だったわね。でもあれが一番あんたには効果的だったわ。高いお熱射、毎週金曜の夜を費やさなければならない面倒でも一番効果があった。その時悟ったの。子供はね、親が見ていないと伸びないの。子が目なら親は太陽だわ。太陽なくして芽吹く草木も咲かせる花も存在しないの。
Kids do plenty of growing without their parents watching over them. Still bound hand and foot, George was thrown, slammed and smashed. He could do nothing. He was still like Sun Wukong, unable to leave the palm of his mother's hand. However, since he wouldn't surrender, he could still show resistance at any time.
じゃあ土曜日は
家庭教師が来てくれてたね。
向こうから来てくれるから楽だったでしょ。
聖域である自室に毎週他人を迎え入れるのは苦痛だったよ。先生が帰った後に残る汗の匂いが今でも思い出せるくらい嫌だったね。
あなたに学習姿勢を叩き込んでくれる素晴らしい先生だったわよ。
Is she trying to use this to say that she was the one that brought about his actual motivation and was the one which pushed him instead of Shannon? Is that what she's trying to say? I don't know. Maybe she's trying to say something else.
弁護士の相談費用並みのお月謝を払った甲斐が本当にあったわ。
そして迎える日曜日と塾の予定がない月曜日だけが僕の安息日だった。
That explains why she didn't start on Sunday or Monday.
これは皮肉だね。火曜日から土曜日までの塾が僕を押さえつけてきたのか。
It is possible. It definitely is possible. Kids also need their rest, after all.
まさに僕は孫悟空だったわけだ。
そうね。私の手のひらから逃れたいなんて思い上がりはお釈迦様にご行山で潰してもらうといいわ。
Umineko, who wanted to become a god, was crushed by the 5 mountains of fire, water, wood, metal, and earth, and was sealed away. These are the 5 elements that the days of the week, Tuesday through Saturday, are named after in Japanese. Only now did George, who had always admired Umineko, recognize this greatest of ironies.
思い上がったあなたは孫悟空と同じに少し反省とお仕置きが必要だわ。あなたが改心したら私が解放してあげる。
それは解放じゃないね。洗脳だ。
何も考えなくていいの。
Yep, that's definitely sounding like brainwashing.
ママに全て任せちゃえば私があなたの全てを決めてあげる。
I mean, deciding everything for him isn't exactly letting him learn, is it now?
それがあなたにとって一番素晴らしい人生なのよ。
And especially since it seems like he has found his own motivation, to take it away would certainly be not counterintuitive, but there was a word I was thinking of. Counterproductive, that's one.
世界で一番知的であなたのために全てを捧げてくれる女性を用意してあげる。
I definitely doubt it.
全ての成功もそれに至る道も全てママが用意してあげるわ。
I mean, let's be honest. What are the chances that the most intellectual woman in the world is Japanese to start off with? And also the chances of you even finding the most intellectual Japanese woman in the world is, while slightly higher, not exactly great.
そしてやがては後ろ宮家で最高の名誉である当主の後継者にあなたは指名されるの。それから初めてあなたは自分の人生を始めなさい。第一歩。笑わせないでよ。あんたはね、まだ生まれてさいないのよ。これはあんたを捕らえる私の巣じゃないわ。
You also don't exactly want the family head to be so dependent for so long. You'd want them to learn their independence. Otherwise, because as soon as they become the family head, they're going to outrank you, right?
あんたを慈しんで育む私の子宮の中なのよ。
Let me just check. Yeah, caring. Yep, this is caring. Totally caring here. George was slammed against the ground over and over with such great care. It was a heartless, caring atrocity, unlike anything one would expect a blood-related son to receive. However, in Never's eyes, perhaps even this was a sign of love for a precious son. Aww. The human-shaped lump of flesh, wrapped in a red bag, was slammed over and over and thrown high into the air, where it was caught in a massive spiderweb in the sky, still covered with fresh blood. while he hung there as though crucified. George didn't even twitch. Even if he had some power to resist remaining to him, the red web pinning him there would have held even that in check. The rain, which had been falling non-stop since the beginning, quietly tormented and pitied George.
ご餃子に封じられてしばらく頭を冷やしなさい。
Herpes?
シャノンちゃんが悪い子だからやめなさいと言ってるわけじゃないのよ。
That's not the best kid.
彼女はジョージに青春と成長のきっかけを与えてくれたとても良い子だわ。でも後先を考えない婚約は別の問題よ。相手が彼女だからいけないと言ってるわけじゃないの。それを分かりなさい。
友を責めるな。行為を責めよ。だね。これもイギリスの格言だ。
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
本当にあなたは賢い子に育ったわ。いいえ、育っているわ。私のお腹の中でね。
I didn't want that image.
もう少しじっくりと育ちなさい。さあ、お仕置きは終わりよ。
The image in my mind was full-on adult being born. Yeah. The spiderweb released George reluctantly. Then it threw him to the ground beneath the cloudy sky.
ありがとう、母さん。
However, it was all George could do to get up on his hands and knees. Though he wiped the mud away and stood his ground, he still couldn't raise his head.
これまでの全てが僕を思ってのことだったんだね。ありがとう。本当にありがとう。
そうよ。
I'm pretty sure thank you for everything is one of the songs, so I was expecting it to start playing.
今は憎いでしょ。でもいつかきっと感謝するわ。
I mean, he doesn't hate you, but he still rejects your decision.
私がどれほどあなたを愛していたかをきっと理解する。
火曜日から土曜日までの連日の塾での縛り付けも、僕を立派な男に育てようという母さんの努力だったんだね。
これもイギリスの格言よ。子供を幸福で包むことが最高の教育。
ありがとう。だから僕からも母さんにイギリスの格言を送るよ。
Or, this is his rebuttal.
何？
すべての木に斧を一撃ずつ加えても一本の木も切り倒せはしない。
何？それはどういう意味？
Split your efforts so it won't amount to anything. Well, if you split
こ
your
っ
efforts
ちの
too
方が
far,
いいかな。学問に時間を費やしすぎることは怠惰にしすぎない。フランシス・ベーコン。
The man drenched in mud and blood straightened his crooked glasses and slowly stood up. Though he was covered in filth, his appearance had a divine quality to it. Something that could only appear in a self-controlled man, not one who had been merely been dozing in his mother's amniotic fluid.
僕がサヨから学んだことは数えきれない。僕は彼女の前で初めて勇気と男気と向上心とウィットとユーモアと、それからちょっぴりのおしゃれを学んだんだ。皮肉だね。
I had a couple of jokes for this. Some of them talking about like countable versus uncountable infinities. Some of it just being, I see, you never learned the numbers fatigue. Anyway.
今日母さんが僕を立派になったと認める要素のほぼ全ては母さんの教育の賜物じゃないんだ。
ジョージ、あんたはまだそんなことを。戻してあげるわ、母さんの子宮に。
Please don't.
そしてもう一度暖かな海で育て直してあげる。
Yeah, I mean, especially with how he was saying that he was held back by the lessons, being bound by all those lessons. It's like, yeah, okay, I acknowledge you were doing that for my sake. However, it isn't necessarily what is actually helpful. As ever howled, a bright red spiderweb appeared at George's feet once more and tried to scoop him up into the air again. However, at that instant, a powerful magic circle could be seen in the area surrounding George for just a moment. Faster than he could be scooped up by the spiderweb, George jumped. And with a sharp kick of the heel and a magnificent forward flip, he cut the shackles of that spiderweb apart. That smooth movement proved that he possessed the power to escape from those shackles all along. He had willingly allowed himself to be bound by that web.
母さんのこれまでの恩を一つずつ痛みで相殺させてもらったよ。おかげで僕も親離れがきっちりとできそうだ。必要だね。たまには親子喧嘩。
ジョージ、私にどうしてそこまで逆らってあんな小娘と。
必要なのはやはり母さんの子離れのように。じゃあそろそろいいかな。何がよ。そろそろいいかな。反撃しても。
The curtain of spiderwebs that ever shot out in defense were all too slow. George weaved through them in one instant, and the next he was right before her eyes. Eva jumped out of the way of a kick that would have knocked her feet out from under her, then blocked the second half of George's double roundhouse with a high kick of her own.
母さんの習い事で一つだけ感謝しているものがあるよ。
それは何曜日のかしら。
長期休暇のたびに集中的に習わされた武道教室の数々だよ。
Certainly laugh. Ever swift feet flashed like lightning. Low, mid-level attack. As George's head fell forward, she caught it in both hands as though she was about to smash it against the ground. It was then met with Ever's knee as it rose like a bolt of lightning from the earth.
そうだね。母さんと一緒に武道を学ぶときが一番楽しかったよ。
なら今が一番楽しいんじゃない？楽しいねジョージ、楽しいね。
楽しいかい母さん。息子と遊ぶのは
楽しいわ。あなたは私の最愛の息子。私のお腹の中で優しく愛してあげるわ。
Can you please just stop with that?
あなたがお腹を蹴るのさ、愛しい。
了解だ。だがその蹴りはお腹の外からになるけどね。
What am I even reading? George's knee buried itself into Eva's abdomen. An instant before she felt the pain of that fierce attack, Eva watched her son's kick with a proud smile. Then vomited.
母さんももう年なんだから。
Ah, yes. She's getting on in the years. Right.
いい加減そういう若い子向きの服は自重した方がいいんじゃないか。
ジョージ
I should have let him finish his sentence, I guess. Her chin still covered in vomit. Eva looked up at George in twisted anguish. I thought he meant that as in, like, she was not as agile and able as she used to be. You could see how pathetic her face was by her reflection in his glasses.
母さんも僕も一緒に子供時代とお別れしよう。母さん。
Fierce lightning and rain made time freeze. George's beautiful kick had stopped an inch from Eva's chest. However, the power of a red magic circle surrounding George had already pierced Eva's body. They had stopped without hitting her. Blood poured out of Eva's back. No wound had been left on her chest, but her heart had been punched through. Eva slumped backwards and landed in a puddle with a splash. There were no convulsions. Her life had been ended without leaving her even an instant to writhe about in pain. Is this... Is Eva going to be in the first Twilight? But I'm wondering. Oh, okay. As he straightened his glasses, George spoke to a rose thicket behind him. Then, a pitch black hole opened in the air there, and Gap jumped out.
大したもんね。あのエヴァ・ベアトリーチェを継承前とはいえ打ち倒すなんて。
やはりいたかい。余計なちょっかいを出さなくてありがとう。親子水入らずで過ごせたよ。
まさかいなかったわよ、私は。今あなたが私を召喚したんだわ。
どっちでもいいさ。君にお願いがあるんだ。
聞く義理はあるの？
聞いてくれないのかい。
With his back still facing her, George reset his glasses. Threat in his voice held the solemn presence of a king who could control demons. That presence made Gap gulp, and she licked her lips before bowing respectfully to his back.
私はイケてる男が好きだけど、王女はもっと好きだわ。なんなりとお命じを、魔王陛下。
後ろ宮家の当主に憧れ、その夢と妄執に生きた彼女の亡骸をふさわしい。
じゃあ金蔵の書斎へ。
後ろ宮家の当主に憧れ、その夢と妄執に生きた彼女の亡骸をふさわしい場所に安置してほしい。
Okay, so my guess for the first Twilight is going to be Eva, and will be found in Kinzo's study. Maybe Kraus. I don't know where he'll be found. As a result of a fight between Jessica and Kraus. But then something's going to happen where Beatrice wins. And so both Jessica, Cannon, and George and Shannon lose, and as a result they also are found dead. That's my current guess.
いや
Oh?
貴賓室がいいな
Okay.
屋敷の2階のあの開かずの貴賓室
あの部屋ね。了解したわ。ジョージ陛下。
Interesting. Garp approached Eva's corpse and lightly tapped the ground with her right heel. When she did, a large hole opened up, swallowed both Garp and the corpse, and closed. After a while, a small hole opened in the air. The staff Eva always carried, marked with one winged eagle, that symbolized the Yushramir family's leader, was spat out into a puddle, because the corpse would no longer have any use for it. I am interested in the red text surrounding this. If they can claim that George did not kill Eva. George slowly approached that staff, stepped down hard on the tip. Oh, to kick it up, okay. When he did, the staff spun violently into the air. And after passing by the blue moon that honoured the Demon King, it flew into George's outstretched hand. The instant he grasped it, another fierce lightning bolt landed nearby. And by the time the flash disappeared, the staff he held had become a spray of gold butterflies and vanished. It was as though George had crushed the staff out of existence.
これで僕はノルマクリアだ次の人に番を譲るよ
自分の母さんを手にかけるなんて
自分を世界で一番最初に愛してくれる人でありそして一番最後に決別すべき人だそれが家を出るということだよこれが僕が作用をめとるために見せられる勇気だ
ジョージ様
あっぱれなり後ろ宮ジョージまずは見事であるぞ
たとえゲーム上のこととはいえ駒のこととはいえ自分の母親を殺すのは愉快なことではないねしかしそれが君たちの課す試練だと言うから僕は答えたよ
He stared at the two demons. The demons looked at each other, then showed their surprise with their now familiar exaggerated gestures.
素晴らしいわなんて見事なのかしらゼタル
そうだねフルフルジョージ君の決意は本物だどうやら僕は君を見誤っていたようだね謝るよ許してほしい
George chose not to go along with this theatrical conversation. He just quietly looked down upon the game board, found the piece representing his mother, and which was right next to his, and tipped it over. This was a trial that Zephyr and Fulfur had set for him. So that the love of a pair will stand true, or rob the life of one person by your own hands. It was similar to that trial during Beato's games, where they were given 3 options as part of a test to select the next family head. However, a pair of lovers will never abandon each other's lives, but they were automatically left with the option of sacrificing the life of another instead. In fact, it was merciful that they only had to choose the life of one person other than themselves instead of all. And besides, it only meant taking those lives as pieces on that board. For the versions of themselves to whom the game board was the only world, this was a tragic parasite. For those who stood around the game board in this witch's smoking ring, it was nothing more than the movement of pieces, representing George's will to overcome his parents. However, the fact remained that the demons had ordered them to take these lives. Even if it was just within one of the endless fragment worlds. George appeared to have distanced himself from the events on the demon's game board, but Jessica still seemed to resist the idea of stealing another person's life, even if it was only their life as a piece on the game board. And considering how much I've flubbed the last few paragraphs, I think I'm getting a bit too tired, so I will be ending it there for today. I hope you've all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. And until next time, where I'm sure I've almost finished a section, would have had a much better place to end on. Until then, see ya.